voice acting, music, and sound effects. These three are often underappreciated when it comes to discussions that revolve around the best aspects in a game. Audio usage in games usually serves to enhance the feelings that a game creates with its story or gameplay. It can elevate intense moments to new heights, or it could make somber moments even more captivating. When used correctly, a piece of music can imprint the segment of a game in the player's mind for long after they're finished with it. Think about yourself. Think about your favorite game that you finished a while ago and you haven't replayed since. Do you go back to it? Do you wish to replay it, but you can't find the motivation or time to do so? How do you bring that game and those feelings you felt back in your memories? For me personally, I listen to the soundtrack. I've mentioned it in the previous episode where I spoke about immersion, and I gave an example of my favorite game of all time, The House in Fata Morgana. I want to reuse that example to bring emphasis as to how important music can be. Fata Morgana is a static visual novel with no voice acting. There are no significant player choices, and the story is told through text and static sprites. While the writing is phenomenal by itself, the experience is elevated to new heights with the accompanying soundtrack. Each piece is masterfully written to convey the exact mood that is represented in the story. Just by listening to any of the tracks, I can vividly recall moments where it first played at, and I can have the same feelings I did while playing it. Sometimes those feelings are even more intense, because with the full context of the game, some of them transform and they take on new shapes. I don't have to replay the game to experience it again. I can do so every day by listening to the soundtrack. Now think about an arcade game with music and sound effects that are designed to elevate the stakes and the action to the roof. Think about Tetris, which has a super iconic soundtrack that people listen to even to this day. Think about Street Fighter, with each character having their own theme song and iconic voice lines that they use whenever they use a special move. Think about side-scroller beat-em-ups with old-school sound effects and narrator callouts when you clear an area. What about horror games and the atmosphere that is created just by the sound design? Don't you find them less scary when you turn down the sound? Isn't that the first advice if you want to make a horror game less scary? To mute it, turn off the music, turn off the sounds? Audio doesn't only enhance the experience provided by the core content, but it subconsciously imprints memories and feelings in your mind. The key to accessing them is the audio itself. This short episode was inspired by some thoughts I had recently while playing through Nier Automata for the first time on my Nintendo Switch. While this is my first time playing it, I've had interactions with the game outside of actually playing the game. I've listened to the soundtrack before, multiple times, as I always found it soothing, and I've also played through the Nier raids in Final Fantasy XIV. However, it was always without context, without any proper knowledge of the story or where a song played and the weight behind it. Upon finishing my first playthrough of the first route, Route A, the credits theme started playing, and without realizing it, I became emotional. This wasn't the first time that I heard the song, but this was the first time that I listened to it in context, and everything clicked. Audio might not always be at the forefront. It may not always be what is most remembered. But if used correctly, audio will always be a way to revisit your favorite game weeks, months, and even years later without even having to boot it up.